Hey guys, KO here. I haven't made a video like this in a little while, but I've got something that I would like to share with you guys. A couple years ago, I did a video that you can find here about how you should seek to read the Bible through in just 1 year. If you've never done it before, you certainly should try to read the entire Bible in 1 year. But I think that's even an important annual challenge that you should give yourself. Maybe not every year, but I think that's a good plan to have, is to, at the very least, systematically be reading through the Bible, whether that's the entire thing or just the New Testament and the Psalms or the Old Testament. Whatever it is, giving yourself a plan will actually set you up to have success with making sure that you spend time with God and His Word every day. And as we come to the end of the year, we're starting to already think about January, New Year's resolutions. And I always think it's important for us to consider, did I read my Bible and spend time with the Lord this past year as much as I should have? And if not, and even if I have, next year, what's my plan? Do I have a plan? Sometimes we sit down in the mornings to read and we don't really have a plan, and sometimes that's good, and we get out of the Bible what we need to for that day. And other times, we're just poking around and trying to find something. And it's better to have a plan because, one, we'll follow through with it. It's like any resolution, going to the gym, whatever it is, weight loss, diet. Having a plan helps you accomplish your goals. But also, it's not just about having a goal, it's about making sure that we're actually spending time with the Lord every day, learning more about Him, growing in our relationship with Him. And if you don't have that, I encourage you to, next year in 2026, make reading your Bible a priority in your everyday life. If you have never used a Bible reading plan, I've got something here for you. There's many you can choose from in the internet, in the world. You can look on YouVersion, the famous Bible app, and find plenty of them there for free. If you've been using Bible reading plans for years, maybe you have one that you use all the time and that's your go-to, that's your favorite. Maybe you like to switch it up. For me, I like to switch things up every year or so and read the Bible from a different angle. When I was younger in my faith, I wanted to read it Genesis to Revelation every time. Whether I did that in 1 year or 2 years, I wanted to read it through from Genesis 1:1 to the end of Revelation because I needed to have a better understanding of the Bible as a whole and how it fit together. But now, as I'm growing in my faith and in my walk with the Lord, I want to zoom in sometimes, spend and not read through the Bible so quickly and zoom in on certain parts of the Bible. Or I want to read the entire Bible in 1 year, but I just don't want to do it Genesis through Revelation because by the time I get to the New Testament, it's already September, October. The year's almost over. I get to the New Testament, boom, start over in January. 9 or 10 months of the Old Testament again. And so I like to switch things up. In the video that I already told you about up here that you can go watch, I recommended my favorite reading plan, which is the M'Cheyne reading plan. You can download PDFs online in the link below in the description, or even on YouVersion. It was made by a pastor in the 19th century named Robert Murray M'Cheyne, who made this plan for his congregants to read through the Bible in a year systematically. But the way they did it was they would be reading 2 or so chapters from the Old Testament and 2 or so chapters from the New Testament. And one, that allowed you to read the entire Old Testament once and then the entire New Testament twice throughout the year. But two, it gave you a little bit from both every single day. So even when you're going through Leviticus, Deuteronomy, Second Chronicles, some of those chapters that, can be tough sledding, you would also be reading something from a Pauline epistle or the gospel as well, or the gospels as well. And so I love that plan. But I wanted to make some modifications and do my own version of that plan where you would only be reading the entire Bible once. So there's a little bit less reading every day. With reading the New Testament twice every year, there's more reading. And so if you miss a couple days, you can really get behind quickly. And so, and I also wanted to kind of change some of the orders that we were doing. And so I made a plan last year that I put out for anybody who wanted to try it. It was free. I said there might be typos or mess ups. It was the beta version, really. And I don't mean that in a weird pop culture reference way. I mean as a beta testing capacity. But so read through that this past year and I really enjoyed it. There was a few errors and typos that I fixed, but now this is version 2 and I kind of want to put it out there for anyone who would like a Bible reading plan for next year, that when you're just reading chronologically or canonically, maybe you find it difficult in trudging through some of those Old Testament books, but you still want to, and you realize the importance of reading them. I think this plan might be good for you. So I want to show you kind of the different things about it, what you'll be getting into each day. It's similar in the M'Cheyne plan in that you're going to be reading Old Testament, New Testament every day. You will either be reading usually two, sometimes three if they're short chapters in the Old Testament, and then one every day from the New Testament or the Psalms. And so you read the entire Bible just once, but you're going to get New Testament or a Psalm every day along with your Old Testament reading. And I've paired them together in a way that I wanted. And I've really enjoyed reading it that way this past year, and I'm going to do it again next year. And I'd like to show you what that looks like, and you can determine if you want it or not. Spoiler alert, it's for free down in the comments or in the description. You don't have to give me your email or anything. Just download it and use it and be blessed. But let's take a look at it. Okay, so I've got the Bible reading plan pulled up here in Adobe PDF Reader. Download it for free and print it out. You've got the date here on the side, the 1st through the 31st, and then you've got the month going across the top here. So all you got to do, if you never miss a day, it's really easy. You just go down through, but you can also look at the day. So January 19th, April 24th, really easy to follow. I know it's not the prettiest thing in the world. Maybe next year I will work on designing it more graphically pleasing, but for now it is functional. And so if we look at each day, let me just zoom in here to January, and you can see that we just start at the beginning. So it's not going to be cherry picked. It's not going to be random chapters, but it doesn't just go Genesis to Revelation in order. So January 1st, Genesis 1, Genesis 2, and Matthew 1. And you're basically going to follow that pattern all the way through until you get to the end of Genesis and Matthew. So January is basically Genesis and Matthew, which if you're OCD about reading things in order, that should scratch that itch pretty well for you. But then you'll see once we get to so you get into Exodus here in the end of January after you finish Genesis. But then once you finish Matthew, instead of just going on to Mark, I decided to go on to Acts. Now, why is that? The reason I decided to do that was I didn't like that I would just read all the Gospels one after another and then be done with them and not have them anymore. Or, by the time you get to Luke, you're like, okay, I just read this twice in a row. It would be nice to stretch that out over the course of the year. So I did Matthew in January and then take a break and then do Mark and then take a break. And you'll see that here as we go. So yeah, you get into Exodus and the book of Acts. Now let's zoom out here. We'll go up to February. And you can see continuing in Exodus, continuing in Acts. If we scroll down here when we finish Exodus, going into Leviticus, basically the Old Testament books, other than the Psalms, they just go in order. You're basically going to read Genesis through Malachi in order, except for the Psalms, because I'm using the Psalms paired with the Old Testament books like with the New Testament books. The New Testament books are the ones that I kind of change the order a bit. So once you read through Acts, you're going to go into Romans, just like in order, no problem. So we're still going in order. If you come up here to March and we're just scrolling down through here, reading through Numbers, reading through Romans, then you get to 1 Corinthians. So that's in order so far. Acts, Romans, 1 Corinthians, and then you get into 2 Corinthians with Deuteronomy. So it's mostly been in order except for taking out the second gospel. And then you come up to April, you're still in Deuteronomy, go on to 2 Corinthians. After finishing Deuteronomy, go into the book of Joshua, just going in order. Now, after 2 Corinthians, that's when I'm going back to Luke. Why did I do that? Well, we read Matthew in January, and now it's been a couple months. Now in April, hey, let's read the gospel again. So now we're going on to Luke. Why didn't I go straight up to Mark? That kind of has to do with the math of fitting things in through the year and where I wanted them to fit. But again, in April, you're going into Luke. So it's only been a couple months, and now we're going to read the gospel again. And usually sometime in March or April, depending on the calendar, is when you're going to have Easter. And so, that's a good time to have the gospels again. In the Old Testament, you're reading through Joshua, reading through Judges, reading through Ruth. And so nothing extraordinary there. In May, you get into 1 Samuel, 2 Samuel. After you finish Luke here in May, this is where we stop with the New Testament for a little bit. We're not going to another gospel. We're not going back to the Pauline epistles. We're going into the Psalms. I really wanted to read the Psalms in the summertime. I don't know why. I just wanted to. I wanted to see what it would be like. And I really enjoyed it. About mid-May, let's see, what day is it? Earlier than mid-May. May 6th, you start the Psalms. When they're short Psalms, you read 2 a day. When they're longer, there's 1. So Psalm 7, it's by itself. Psalm 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, you get 2 a day. Psalm 119, which is in July. If you scroll down here, I break that up into a couple days. Obviously, you could read it all at once if you want, but I tried to break it up a little bit to make it more easily digestible. But I really enjoyed reading the Psalms along with my Old Testament during the spring and the summertime. It was really good. I enjoyed it a lot. I think you'll like it. And also, if you look here, what are you reading with early on when you're reading the Psalms? You're reading in 1 and 2 Samuel. So as you're reading the heartbeat of David from the Psalms, you're reading about David's life at the same time. And I think that paired really nicely. And so then in the summer, you're going to read through 1 Kings, 2 Kings, 1 Chronicles, 2 Chronicles, and the whole time you're reading through the Psalms as well. So that's the theme of the summer, really, is Samuel, Kings, Chronicles, and the Psalms. And that was really good. And then as you continue on into August, that's when you start getting into, you're finishing the Psalms, you get into Nehemiah, Esther, and then Job. And then by the time you get to the end of Job, you've finished the Psalms. And Psalms is right after Job, right? So Job, Psalms, Proverbs. So once you get to the end of Job, you're actually going to skip Psalms because you just read it. But once you finish Psalms here in what month was that? In mid-August. Once you finish the Psalms, you're going to go back to the Gospels because we haven't read the Gospels since April when we read Luke. And so now in August, 3-4 months later, we're going to get back to the Gospels and read a little bit more about Jesus. And we start in Mark chapter 1 there in August. As you finish the book of Job at the end of August, you skip the Psalms because you just read it, and you go on to Proverbs and you read that in order, 2 a day, as you're reading the book of Mark. And then September comes along, you're reading the Proverbs and Mark. After you finish Mark, we're not going into Luke. We already read Luke. We're not going into John yet. We're going back to the Pauline epistles. So we go to Galatians, and basically the Pauline epistles read in order from September on from the book of Galatians. So Proverbs and Galatians, then Ecclesiastes and Ephesians, Song of Solomon, Philippians, get into Isaiah. And as you're reading the long book of Isaiah, you'll hit Colossians, First Thessalonians, Second Thessalonians. Some of these chapters are a bit shorter, so you get 3 chapters in Isaiah on some days to make the math fit. October, same thing. You're finishing Isaiah, reading through these Pauline epistles to Thessalonians, Timothy, Titus, Philemon. And then you get to Jeremiah, and you're reading Hebrews in October. And then you're going to finish Hebrews at the end of October. You're still reading through Jeremiah. And then we get to November, and you're finishing Jeremiah, and you're like, wow, I still have a lot to read in the Old Testament. It feels like anyway, and I'm already in November. But what's really neat about this is you're getting towards the end of the New Testament as well. So you're reading through, sorry if I'm jumping back and forth. As you're reading through Jeremiah, you're getting into 1st and 2nd Peter, Lamentations there, and then 1st John, 2nd John, 3rd John, Jude. And then by the middle of November, you're reading through Ezekiel, another large major prophet, but now we're reading in Revelation, which is really fun. We're used to reading Revelation at the end of the year when we're doing a Bible in 1 year reading plan, but we're not doing it at the end of December. There's a reason why I decided to do it this way, because once you get to December 1st, look where we're at. We're nearing the end of Ezekiel. We're in mid-Revelation. And then what comes after Ezekiel? Daniel 1. So you get to read the rest of Revelation with Daniel together. Daniel and Revelation go together prophetically. I found that was really cool. I actually got sidetracked a few times in my reading, looking at footnotes and cross references. It was really fun. And then by the time you finish Revelation 22, we're not done with the year. We're only midway through December, and so we have one last New Testament book to read, the Gospel of John. What better way to prepare for Christmas than to start in John 1 and read through the end of that gospel? And as you're reading that through, you're going to be hitting all the minor prophets, which read very quickly because they're very short. And also in the bigger ones like Hosea, the chapters are shorter. So some of these you're going to read a lot of them you're going to read 3 chapters, but you're also going to read some of them, the entire book, in one day. Joel, 1 day. Amos, 3 days. There's 9 chapters. Obadiah, 1 day. Jonah splits over 2 days. Micah, 2 days. Nahum, 1 day. Habakkuk, 1 day. Zephaniah, 1 day. Haggai, Zechariah, a couple days. And then Malachi, 1 day, as you're finishing the New Testament and the Gospel of John. I really enjoyed laying this out, and I wasn't sure how it was going to go, but I really enjoyed reading it this way. Like I said, I corrected a few errors and typos, and there was a few math problems, and I fixed all that, I think. But I really enjoyed reading it like this. I think you might too, especially if you find yourself looking for a different Bible reading plan. I really enjoyed reading it like this, and I hope it could be a fun tool for you as well. Again, it's for free. Just check the description down below, click on the link, download it, use it, give it to other people, print it out, whatever you want to do with it. If that seems like too much, or you're in a year where you're like, I've been doing the Bible quickly. I read it once or twice last year, and I want to slow down and zoom in. Well, I've got a different plan, but it's just half of the same plan. Here, take a look at this. In the same PDF file, I have the Bible in a year plan, which is the Old Testament and New Testament and Psalm every day, or the second page, which is literally just the New Testament and the Psalms every day for a year. Only 1 chapter a day, except a few times where the Psalms, you read 2 Psalms in a day, but it's literally the same as the other plan. This is the exact same reading plan as the first, just taking out the Old Testament portion. So 2 PDFs, well, it's in 1 PDF, but there's 2 pages. If you take out the Old Testament portion and start in Matthew in January, it's going to follow the same route. You see, it goes Matthew, get to the end of Matthew, and you start the book of Acts, get to the end of Acts, Romans, 1 Corinthians, 2 Corinthians, back to Luke in April. It's the same thing. And then halfway through May or early in May, you start the Psalms, read the Psalms through the summer, and then it follows the exact same thing. So you get both of those in the same PDF file if that is something that you're interested in. So anyway, if you've never read through the Bible in a year, I highly encourage it. Maybe for your first time, you should just start in Genesis and read through Revelation. If you've done that a lot and you're looking to change it up, give this a try, see if you like it. If you've never read the M'Cheyne reading plan, I suggest you do that one first because I really like it. It does take a little bit more time each day because you're reading more. You're reading the Bible almost 1.5 times in the year. And so this is kind of a happy medium. I didn't just copy and paste the M'Cheyne plan and edit it. I kind of redid my own way, but inspired by the M'Cheyne plan. And I really enjoyed this. This is version 2. If there's more typos or errors, I'll fix that for next year. And then maybe I will make a more pretty looking version of it that can be printed or used digitally. But for now, I hope this is helpful to you guys. Read your Bible in 2026. Read it every day. If you've already read it through cover to cover before and you want to zoom in, try the New Testament and Psalm version. If you've never read it cover to cover, make that your goal and your resolution for 2026. Either way, draw closer to the Lord by spending time with him in his word this year. It'll grow your faith. It'll make you look more like him, and you'll be better for it in the long run. Anyway, have a great day, guys. See you next time. God bless.